What do you mean not connect? Oh, there we go. Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Another question I have is that I'm using OBS, and the area that is covered on the OBS screen is smaller than what I'm seeing on my monitor. So I don't know if that's an aspect ratio issue or what it is. Let me know if it's any better. I dropped it from 60 frames a second to 30. Oh, good. Glad to hear that. Sweet clover. Oh, they did put out a tornado warning for that little area that I was referring to earlier. Northeastern wake, moving northeast at 35. Storm will be near Raleigh at 12:15, Wake Forest 12:20. Let's go back up to the yeah. You can sort of see how this is oriented here. How you have the lighter greens coming in like this and the reds curling back into this point. So that's right, just southeast of Lake Lynn. And so I'm going to put it right there. Boy, my computer is really slow. See, I'm supposed to be getting a list of towns, and it can't even do that. It's so overloaded. Lynn Road Elementary School is in that fan. No, 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 no. See, now I can't even get rid of this box. Well, I guess I can say this, is that assuming that something doesn't change drastically over the next couple of hours, it was good that I had these experiences in an outbreak that was not massive, so that when we do have one where the warnings are coming out like wildfire, that be in a much better position. There we go. Looking at the something called the correlation coefficient, which is the radar comparing the size and shape of the particles that it's detecting, be it raindrops or debris or whatever. And if there's a tornado on the ground and there's debris in the air, and all of that debris has different shapes and sizes, you'll have what's called a low correlation coefficient. But if it's just rain, or all snow, or all sleet, or whatever, it shows up as a high value, around 1. And I'm looking on here in that tornado warning area, and I do not see any indication at this point that there's a tornado on the ground whipping debris into the air. So as you can see, this whole area here is under a severe thunderstorm warning, all the way from Fuquay and Holly Springs up here to Centerville. And the tornado warning is in the middle of this. It's going to be interesting to see if the worst of this misses downtown Raleigh, because everything is moving northeast and there's a nice break between the high reflectivity values up here and down here. Could very well be. Oh, they canceled the tornado warning? Tornado warning for northwestern Vance and northeastern Granville has been canceled, but the one for northeastern Wake is still up. Oh, yeah, Vicky, that's one thing I was talking about earlier is the training effect here, where the line was oriented in the same direction that the cells were moving. So you were getting repeat occurrences over the same area. So that does not surprise me. Hey, Jess, I'm doing okay. Hope you are. Still got that little signature there. To make sure that you can see it as well as me. Yeah, right in here. Right near Six Forks. Close to I-540, but then it just updated again here. Now it's not quite as well defined. Let's take a look at yeah, Raleigh is right in between those two areas. Move this up a little bit. See that right in here? Heavier to the north, heavy to the south. Now it looks like there's another suspicious area, maybe down here just east of Fuquay, or northeast of Fuquay. Nothing that stands out in the velocity data. Keep an eye on this area right in here. Looks like Holly Springs and a good bit of carrier out of the woods, at least on this one, this line. Surprised I'm not seeing more in the velocity field with that. Andrew, you have to be pouring right now. As well as Lillington. There's the new tornado watch. Cumberland, so Cumberland including Fayetteville, Halifax including Roanoke Rapids, Johnston, Smithfield, Vance, Henderson, Wayne, Goldsboro, Edgecombe, Tarboro, Harnett, Wellington, Nashville, Wake, Raleigh, Wilson, Franklin, Lewisburg, Hoke, Rayford, Sampson, Clinton, and Warrenton. Those counties under a tornado watch. And the expiration time is 8 this evening. I'm going to check with SPC here real quick. going to show you that that watch area. This one here is the one that's that is new. I wanted to see if they had updated their discussion. Looks like they have. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing scattered damaging wind gusts and a few tornadoes possible. Strongly forced convective line continues to push eastward across the central Carolinas to south central Virginia. Thus far, updraft depth has been limited by modest buoyancy, as evidenced by the lack of lightning within the line. However, the downstream air mass is expected to undergo modifications as low 60s dew points advect northward. Just ahead of the line, this increased moisture should lead to greater buoyancy and the potential for deeper, more persistent updrafts within the line. As storms deepen, the very strong low to deep layer shear over 50 knots and 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear over 70 in place over the region will support storm organization, mainly in the form of bowing structure and mesovortices. Okay, so they're still concerned about the warming and the moistening down east and this thing strengthening as it heads into the coastal plain. So, Dr. Ben, where exactly are you? Hmm. Oh, it looks like that area south of Raleigh expanded northward into Raleigh, so they did end up getting something. That break which was down here, is now up here. Everything's moving northeast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will be right back. All righty. Let's see what's going on up near Youngsville there. Okay. There are some things that, it's interesting that sometimes things look somewhat impressive on the reflectivity product, but not so much on the velocity. And that's the big advantage of Doppler, is being able to see the motion of raindrops instead of just their existence. Oh, there's Martin Brossman. Hey, buddy. Oh, well, thank you, Cheyenne. I appreciate that. Well, the tornado warning for Wake County was canceled. These are very quick spin ups and spin downs. They're not lasting very long. See some of those winds that still winds in that narrow line there of over 60 in places. Look back to the west here a little bit and see if other radars are picking up anything. That's the Greenville-Spartanburg radar. They cover southwestern North Carolina and over to Charlotte. And they haven't got anything on there. The dew point's down to 49 at Statesville, 49 at Lincolnton, 50 at Charlotte, 53 at Lexington. Yeah, so if I did just a dew point analysis here. Huh. Oh, that's because I changed radars. Hold on here. I'm going to turn all those dots off. They're driving me crazy. There we go. So, got 64 down here. '61 all the way up to South Hill. So, that area is where the juice is. And the winds, well, they're a little bit more southeasterly here, south to southeast. They're more southwesterly out in here, but that's still not behind the cold front. This air is drying out, but it's not that much cooler. And then if I go even farther west, let's there you can see where it becomes westerly. That is, in fact, you go from 63 here to 43 here temperature-wise. So frontal system is still out here in eastern Tennessee. So you've got trees down in Duplin County? That is, I would not have guessed that would be the case. But if you're there and you're seeing it, so just to summarize the current warnings, the ones that affect North Carolina, there's only one, and that's Franklin, Wake, and Granville. And two of those, well, yeah, the one that affects those three will expire in a half hour. Yeah, with all this drier air coming in from the west, it's the only thing that could produce more thunderstorms is just purely the vigor of the upper level system. Let's take a look at the water vapor imagery. Yeah, that's quite a nice band of clearing there. I think I can put counties on here. Hold on. Okay, so the sun actually is out in western Chatham County, or at least beginning to. And then you've got, these just look like cloud streets for right now, but we'll see if anything comes of that. But beautiful day out here in the western Piedmont. That's really interesting, Dr. Ben, because I didn't realize that the winds were strong enough that far out ahead of the main line to do that. I appreciate you passing that along. Oh, I didn't check out what I told you I was going to check out. Yeah, look at that. See, all that yellow is very, very dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and that is moving into the western part of our area. And by the way, when I say our area, I'm basically referring to the same area that the WRAL covered. The Nielsen has over 200 television markets in the country that are geographically defined. And of course, this is the Raleigh-Durham Fayetteville market. And I think it covers about 22, 23 counties, as far west as Person and Orange and Chatham and Lee and Moore and down into Hoke. And then eastward into Fayetteville and I don't think Duplin County is in our DMA. I think it cuts off in Sampson County. But there have always been people on these fringe counties, maybe just barely outside of the market area, that we know still watch. And so we always sort of treated it as, you know, let's not just go to the border of our market area, but go one county beyond that, just in case. And by the way, just while we're waiting here, just a little bit of a, I guess, a philosophy that I have about something that I call a low probability, high impact. And what I mean by that is if a tornado warning is issued for your area, the chance of that tornado, even if it occurs, of it coming directly over your house is probably rather small. However, if it does, and you haven't done anything to prepare for it, then the results could be tragic. And so I always tell people, you know, if a tornado warning is issued for your area, go to your safe place and wait for 20 or 30 minutes. And if nothing happens, don't be mad, be thankful. But there are those things in life where the overall chance of it happening isn't all that great, but if it does, you may not get another chance. And so I always tell people to take these things seriously. And there is going to be a false alarm rate. There's no question about it. The science has gotten much better since the Dopplers were installed, but it's still not perfect. All right, let's go back to the old radar here. Visibility here in Myrtle is not good, but I'm wondering how much of that is rain and how much of it is smoke. Last night, the biggest wildfire down here was 8.4 miles as the crow flies from where I am. I'll tell you, some of the pictures from down here, it almost looked like California a while back. Yeah, I mean, Cheyenne, it's definitely a risk that this will pick up in intensity as we head through the afternoon. There's just no sign of that yet, but have to be vigilant until it gets through everybody. Where are you? I don't know if it's Banzai or Bonsai. And by the way, is would you say overall the streaming is better since I lowered the frame rate? In fact, I'm gonna check the observation at Myrtle and see what they're showing, just for fun. Oops, what am I doing? Visibility 1 3/4 and 2.5, but they're not reporting any smoke. Interesting. I don't know if the radar archive goes back that far. I can certainly check. But the problem was in '88 there were no Dopplers. And the other problem was the tornado formed very close to where the radar was located at that time. It was a 5 centimeter wavelength radar at the airport. And so the general thinking was that it would have been tough to pick up anyways because it probably would have been in the clutter pattern. I still marvel at the fact that with the damage that occurred with that, and it was on a Sunday night / Monday morning after Thanksgiving. When you look at the damage, it's just amazing that the death toll was no higher than 4. 4 too many, but man, it could have been a lot worse. No watch, no warning, middle of the night. And hard to believe that that was, it'll be 37 years in November. I was just talking to somebody last night about the fact that all the years that I worked in television, you know, we had American Meteorological Society conferences every year. And that was the only opportunity I had to see a lot of good friends in the industry, just, you know, once a year at those conferences. And I missed that dearly, but the thing about it is, even if I went, most of my contemporaries have retired. So it would not be the same. Makes you realize that we all ain't gonna be here forever. So the line is well past Raleigh now. And the back edge of the range is almost to apex. Hold on just a second here. Yeah, you've got one more little high reflectivity area around Falls Lake will be coming through very shortly. But I think once that first line goes by, that the wind shear really dies off. And this is what we call what meteorologists call a low Cape high shear event. There really isn't that much instability, not the likes of which you see in the Great Plains when they have their big outbreaks, but a lot of times you can have just a little bit of Cape or that convective available potential energy or buoyancy, but if the wind pattern is strong enough, it can overcome that. And just grateful that at least so far it hasn't overcome it a lot. Severe thunderstorm warning for Franklin and Wake expires in 9 minutes. The warning for Warren, Vance, Franklin, and Halifax expires in 24 minutes. And that's a new severe thunderstorm warning for Johnston, Wake, Harnett, Franklin, and Nash. And that has almost an hour to go. Clayton's about to get hit. Yeah, there really has been an amazing lack of lightning with this activity. So in Warren County, heavy rain. Yep, there's Warrenton, there's Norlina. I mean to do that. It's funny, I was going to lighten the mood and tell you a very old but very cute, funny story, but I don't know if it's appropriate to do it in the middle of severe weather coverage. Let's see how much the airport's well, Hope Mills, it looks like the leading edge of it is past you. Still got some heavy rain, but I think the threat of anything terribly severe is waning, no pun intended. NC pork barbecue, you bet I will. Just took me a little while to get up the nerve to try it. And I have definitely learned some hard lessons today, and will make those corrections and be better prepared next time. I never did go to bed last night. I did everything I humanly possible to make sure that this was going to come off okay, and there's just some things I didn't understand or didn't account for. See, what's interesting is on my screen, and maybe you can confirm this, but the way it looks right now is that Fayetteville is at the very bottom of what you're seeing, and on my monitor, Fayetteville is almost in the middle of the screen. Wow. 1.75 inches of rain, 1.2 of it coming in just the last 25 minutes in southeastern White. That's a good rainfall rate. Thanks for passing that along, WA. So Hope Mills, yes, right, okay. I don't understand that, why it's not, because you can, you know, there's a window that you can fill up, and I haven't gone beyond that window. So I don't know what the deal is there either. That's another, another point of interrogation. Temperatures are getting up close to 70 down east. Oh gosh, yeah, in Raleigh, you're in good shape. I mean, there's still a little bit of rain, but yeah, the threat of severe weather is way over in Raleigh, so nothing to worry about there. So you're in good shape, Martin. Yeah, the interesting, if you think about it, this makes total sense, but when they issue a watch, the eastern extent of the watch, or the downwind part of the watch, uh, the expiration time is there for the people that are on the extreme eastern edge. If you're in the western part or upwind part of a watch area, uh, the expiration time is always going to be way later, or I'm sorry, way earlier than for you than it will be for the folks downwind. And so the National Weather Service will issue that watch because that entire area could see severe weather during the period of time, but they have to knock out chunks of it from the west as time goes on. And by the time you're, in toward the end of the watch, it's only a very small sliver that's left. Coats, you got to be coming down in sheets. If any of you have suggestions on how I could eliminate all of this dead air, I just don't know what else to talk about. Yes, it is tracking toward Nashville, North Carolina. In fact, I can do a little distance estimate here for you. So there is Nashville. There we go. So it's coming from the southwest, and so it is about 30 miles from you. So I would guess that in probably about an hour, maybe a little bit less. Oh, I think we have, no, okay. Make sure I didn't see something new there. Looks like we might have a little bit of this is probably not on the scale of a tornado, but a little wave in here. Every time I click on the upper monitor, the chat window disappears, and I have to. Yeah, there's definitely something going on there. I mean, not that it's devastating, but there's definitely a wave there. If you look at sort of the axis of this, there's an inflection point right in there. Yeah, the webcam idea is a good one. I almost feel like I need like multiple monitors. I know people that do this have like 5, 6, 7 monitors, you know, all in front of them like this, and they can call up any source they want at any time. And I'm making do with my laptop monitor and one external monitor, and that's it. Monitors aren't that expensive, I guess. So I wonder if we're done for the winter. Oh, you took a meteorology class. Do you remember who your professor was? Thank you, NC Pork Barbecue. Um, it's a pretty wide area of heavy rain too. Like, you know, it stays heavy for a while, and at those rates, you can pile up a lot in a short amount of time. Oh gosh, it's even more evident now with that update. See how that leading edge goes down like that, and then like this? There's something going on right in there. That's between Angier and Smithfield. Hmm. Don't see anything too scary there yet. Now over here, I want to make sure I'm not, if I'm onto something here, hold on. Hmm. Looks like there's something on in the background there. Yeah, there's an interesting thing that can happen with radar, and it depends on, oh boy, I got to go back and think about this now. It's been a while. There's something called the pulse repetition frequency, and it's how rapid the pulses are sent out. And there's something called the Doppler dilemma, where if you send out the pulse too quickly, then the first pulse may not get back to the radar before the second one goes out. And so then the radar has to try to figure out which pulse is that? And so there is a, what is it, a maximum unambiguous range. And you can actually calculate what that is for given pulse repetition frequencies, but beyond that distance, you have to be very careful about what it's showing in terms of actual values. See, with this downtime, we do get a chance to talk about some other stuff. Oh yeah, think snow. That was I always signed just about everything with that. The other one I used to sign early on was don't put up a front. We definitely have more 60 plus dew points now. Check out the current warnings here. Tornado warning up in Virginia. Severe thunderstorm warning for Warren, Vance, Franklin, and Halifax expires in 2 minutes. About the I-95 thing. You know, because it does run parallel to the coast, because you know our climate regions are sort of set up like that, and it just happens to be a nice landmark. So as far as the NC State professor goes, I'm just wondering, I think Dr. Watson, Jerry Watson, may have passed away by that time. Could have been Al Reardon. Jerry was the first professor that when I first got to Raleigh in 1981, I went over to the Department of Meteorology at State. And he could not have been more welcoming. I miss him. We used to meet at the faculty club on Friday afternoons late and share or have a glass of wine or something like that. But the other interesting story is that there was another professor, his name was Dave Barber, and the meteorology office was in Withers Hall back then, and Jerry and I were in there, and Dave walked in, and Jerry looked at him and says, "Dave, you got to meet the new meteorologist. We finally have a meteorologist on TV here." Dave never moved his head, and he just looked down at the desk and he said, "Is he any good?" and I knew that he had this perception that TV weather people were not real scientists, and so I took that as a challenge, and he and I ended up getting to be very good friends. Thunderstorm wind damage 4 miles north of Bushy Fork in Person County, and wind damage in Roseboro, and in 4 Oaks, and wind damage near the airport. So now we're starting to get reports. New severe thunderstorm warning for eastern Warren, northwestern Halifax, and northeastern Franklin until 2:30. It's definitely looking a little nastier, at least in terms of reflectivity anyways. Bearing down on Middlesex, not too far away from Spring Hope. Getting into Benson. Smithfield, not too much longer. So I'll be covering this until it clears Halifax, Northampton, Edgecombe, Wilson, Wilson, Sampson. Check back here and see if anything's going on. Yeah, Mr. Booty, there's been an amazing lack of lightning with this entire band. In fact, the Weather Service in Raleigh brought that up earlier, that the strength of the updrafts is obviously not very strong, because if they were, then that would have produced a separation of charge that would have led to the lightning. So let's see, I'm not sure why it's not letting me click on this radar here in green. There we go. Well, Greenville, Spartanburg doesn't have much. A little bit back here, back in Georgia. You see how much different the rain area over us looks from the vantage point of Greenville, Spartanburg radar? Figure by the time the beam hits that, it's probably, I don't know, 10 to 15,000 feet above the ground. So would y'all say that since I made that adjustment that things are better? You know, another interesting little tidbit that you may not be aware of is that when the National Weather Service Dopplers were first installed back in the 90s, they did then and still do now what's called a volume scan, where it makes one entire sweep at one elevation, then it tilts up, goes around again, tilts up, and I think it's like 19 different tilts. But we would only get an update of the lowest level, which is what, you know, ultimately we're interested in, every 6 minutes. And so when we bought our own radar, because we weren't doing a volume scan and going to all those tilts, we were just swinging around at the lowest level, then we could do that in a minute. And so we were getting minute by minute updates instead of every 6. And where that could come into play is that if you have a tornado moving at 60 miles an hour and you show an image that's 6 minutes old, you're 6 miles off. And if you're 1 minute old, then the worst you can be is 1 mile off, which is still significant, but not as bad as 6. But now the Weather Service has revised their scan strategy so that they go around a few tilts and then they go back down to the ground and do a sweep, and then they do a few more tilts in the middle levels and then come back down to the bottom and then go back up and finish and then come back to the bottom. So you're getting an update about every minute to minute and a half now. And so the advantage of a television radar is pretty much gone now. The only way it would be an advantage is if you lived in a place like Charlotte, which is sort of in a cull between, I guess, the radar in Roanoke and Greenville, Spartanburg, and Columbia, and so forth. And so in a situation like that, it can be a big advantage because you're looking at the Charlotte area at low elevation angles and not at a high elevation angle from a distant radar. But the thing about the Raleigh area is that the two television radars and the National Weather Service Doppler radar are all on top of each other. They're all within a couple of miles of each other. And so they're all seeing the same thing. And with the more frequent National Weather Service updates, the advantage is just not there anymore. And the other thing is that the National Weather Service radar is a 10 centimeter wavelength radar, which attenuates much less than a 5 centimeter, which is what all the television stations have. And when I say attenuate, supposing you had two thunderstorms along a line, the television radar is going to detect the first one really well, but very little of that signal is going to be able to get through that to see the one farther away. The National Weather Service radar at 10 centimeters doesn't have that problem. It pokes right through that first one, sees the second one for what it is. And I can remember a lot of times that I compared the two and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I can't show that. That's not even hinting at how bad things are there. And so I'd have to show the National Weather Service radar to give people an accurate, depiction of what was going on. So it used to be a big advantage, but not so much now. Okay, let me check the chat here. See, now we're starting to get more reports, and a lot of times this happens where, you think that everybody's going to report it as soon as it happens. That's not always the case. Because maybe some of these people, wanted to make sure that they were safe, and I understand that, before they call somebody or report something or whatever. So a lot of times the rash of reports does not come in until much after the fact. I remember the March of '84 tornado outbreak. We weren't hearing anything, and I thought maybe we dodged a bullet here, and it was because the communication towers were all knocked out around Red Springs and Maxton, and there wasn't any way to get the information to the National Weather Service or to television stations. And so I went from worrying about having overplayed it to the next morning when I wake up to 57 people dead, thinking that I didn't do enough. There's more thunderstorm wind damage 3 miles east-southeast of Raleigh from a, says broadcast media. I'm assuming that's television. Yeah, Vicki, times were different back then. Didn't have the all the tools and bells and whistles that exist now, and even with all those, it's not perfect. And you know, I sort of like that, because life would be very boring if there was nothing new to learn. It's funny that the notification setting, every time a new radar image goes in, I hear this whoosh. Oh, yes, the April 16th of 2011. And do you know that that was the one and only major weather event that I was not present for? Uh, Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate that. I was up in Pennsylvania visiting my dad, and I did not know at that time that that would be the last time I would see him coherent. And I remember having to make the decision whether or not to jump in the car and drive back or not. And I thought to myself, you know, the reason you hire good people is that so no matter who's on duty at a given time, that they can handle it. And they did. And I will tell you one thing, which I probably shouldn't, but I will. Nate Johnson, who used to be a meteorologist for WRAL, used to work for the company that made the radar that we bought. It's called Barron Services down in Huntsville, Alabama. And he knew a lot about what that radar could do, more so than I did. And he was able to communicate some very valuable information that afternoon, that Saturday afternoon, that I would not have been able to share. And so in that sense, it worked out. But I felt weird about that. That was the only major weather event that I was not here for. Let's see, what was that there? The radar and the Doppler are so night and day, I rarely know which to follow. Not sure what you mean. Please clarify. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I think a lot of these damaging wind gusts may not necessarily be associated with a particular thunderstorm, but there's just so much wind not too far off the ground that it doesn't take too much for that momentum to get transferred down to the surface. That may have been much more what's going on today than any massive storm. Oh, well, the dual Doppler and the radar, they're both radars. It's just that they call it dual because it's dual polarization, that it transmits a signal in both the horizontal and the vertical, and so it can actually tell the shapes of objects. It used to be that if we wanted to estimate that there was hail present in a thunderstorm, that water-coated hailstones really reflect. They're very good reflectors of the radar signal, so we just looked for areas of really high reflectivity, but we weren't sure exactly what we were looking at. And then when the dual polarization radars came along, then we could actually get a better idea as to the shape and the size of what the radar was seeing, and so that was a big advantage. Yeah, I don't know. Like when you say the radar as opposed to the Doppler radar, I guess I'm not sure what that is. There can also be a problem in the morning if you have a clear, calm night and there's an inversion that sets up, then the beam that goes out from the radar is bent into the ground by that temperature inversion. And so if you don't account for that in your color scheme, early in the morning it can look like Armageddon, and it's perfectly clear outside. It's just a matter that there's an inversion bending the radar beam into the ground. And I remember one time there was a line that, this very early on in my career, there was a line that went through, and all of a sudden there were all these bright colors behind it, and I actually typed in a crawl that went across the bottom of the screen. You know, there were more intense thunderstorms, and all it was rain-cooled air from that initial line, and it was very cool near the surface, warmer aloft, and the radar beam was getting bent into the ground. Another lesson learned. Okay, so we got warnings down into Wayne County now. Man, it is coming down here in Myrtle. Ooh, jeez. All right, severe thunderstorm warning for Wayne County, southern Edgecombe, which would be just south of Tarboro, I guess, Wilson County and eastern Johnston County, and that goes until 3. Well, it sounds like hail out there. So locations potentially impacted: Pine Level, Marmac, Pine Tops, Tarboro, Micro, Elroy, Seven Springs. Oh, there's my favorite, Conedo. I called that Conto the first time I was on television and mentioned that town, and oh my goodness, did the switchboard light up. Selma and Elm City. Again, that warning goes until 3. Okay, so you say the radar looks like it's just ramping up. Where is that information coming from? Oh, got some thunder finally up near Falls Lake? I don't know if I can, just trying to think if I could pick this camera up and show you what it looks like outside here. I'm not sure. I'm not going to try it. Yeah, it looks like this this line is intensifying, and it's got its aim on Rocky Mount and Red Oak and eventually Roanoke Rapids. Looks like it's right over Roseboro now in Sampson County. So what, WRAL's website? I can't comment on that. I will tell you that since I started doing the Patreon thing, the wonderful thing is not having a time limit. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but the weather was the only part of the newscast that was ad-libbed. I guess our script was the graphics that we produced. And so the graphics, you know, would help remind us what we were thinking when we made the graphic. But I, you know, if I went over my 3 minutes, then Tom Suter or Jeff Gravely got cut because sports was the last thing in the newscast, and I didn't want to do that to them. But when you're ad-libbing, you get thoughts in your mind that pop into your mind. You say, oh, I want to talk about that. And then you realize, uh-oh, I talked too much about that. I've got 15 seconds left, and I haven't even started the forecast yet. So, but now I can talk as long as I want, and I always do the forecast first. So if you don't want to listen to all that other stuff, you don't have to. That was a ploy, and I think it still is, because at least they used to, I'm not sure if it's still this way, but Nielsen used to split an hour up into 4 15-minute segments. And weather would never show up before 15 after the hour. They wanted to put it in that second 15 minutes so that people would watch and they would get credit for that second 15 minutes. That was an intentional ploy to increase ratings. And everybody does it. It's not, you know, not unique to one station, but that was the strategy. I remember I was watching, some of you older folks like me, I was watching a Dean Martin roast of Don Rickles. And Bob Newhart got up there and he said that Don Rickles hadn't had a whole lot of luck on television. And he said that he had a -4 Nielsen rating. And that meant that they talked to people that didn't have televisions. And they said that if they had a television, they wouldn't watch. That was some good stuff back then, but you'd never get away with it now. Just my opinion, but I think sometimes we take ourselves just a little bit too seriously now. Harder to have fun. You are welcome, Beach Girl. I remember Bob Newhart also said, he said, Don Rickles is my best friend, which should give you some idea of the difficulty I have in making friends. You know, one thing that's been pretty consistent with this all day long is that, you know, the line will be straight for a while, and then it'll have a little bend in it, and then it'll go straight, and then it'll get a little bend. Right now, that bend is just southwest of Smithfield. Oh, wow. The dew point in Clinton is now 67. Wow. That's the highest one I see. 66 in Greenville. Yeah. Oh, okay, Dr. Ben. There's actually, and they do this in the European Center as well as NOAA, but they have a reanalysis project where they go back and reanalyze old data and try to make it even better. And with March 28th coming up, you know, what would that be now? 84, 16, 25, 41 years ago, the 84 outbreak. And I'll tell you a little story about that. Got a lot of little stories. Back in those days, we used to have to hand plot the weather maps because we didn't have computers to do all that for us. And I was plotting a map, I think at about 3 or 4 that afternoon, and I saw a 10 millibar pressure fall in 3 hours at, I believe it was Athens, Georgia. And I just assumed it was a mistake. And it was not. It was real. And that was the beginning of what we call a mesolow. The night before, all these thunderstorms had roared through North Carolina, and they set up this outflow boundary across South Carolina and Georgia. And you could see it on the satellite. There were all sorts of cumulus south of it and almost nothing north of it. And this mesolow moved right along that boundary, and that's where all the tornadoes occurred. And that was an amazing night. Okay, so now we have, check this here. Oh, so we're getting more and more reports of thunder now. Southeast Wake, also around Clayton. You know why it's thundering in Clayton? The radar heard me talking about it's no longer an advantage, and it got mad. So, all right. We're getting a lot more wind damage reports now. One mile south-southwest of Hope Mills. 4 southwest of Concord in Person County. Yep. Thunderstorms will impact Sampson County through 3. I really don't know why that watch is in effect until 8. Again, it's probably one of those things where only the eastern extreme part of the watch. Boy, that looks pretty darn nasty approaching Rocky Mount now. Let me zoom in here just a little bit. I wish the font was bigger. So Garland, see that there? Bearing down on Clinton. Already gone through Newton Grove, the worst is over there. Pouring in Smithfield. Raining hard now in Selma. Micro, you're not going to be too much longer. And Sims, you're right at the leading edge. Nashville, you're pouring, but the absolute heaviest rain has just moved slightly east of you. Whoops. Red Oak, same thing as Nashville, pouring, but soon to lighten up a little bit. Dorches, you're right at the leading edge. Roanoke Rapids, you haven't gotten it yet, but you're not far away. Then that update, it's getting very close. Sounds the thing out the window here. We must be getting 2 or 3 inches of rain too. Yeah, I think if we animate this, you can definitely see this thing has picked up some steam. Oh, I need to make it more frames. Hold on. Let's go with 30, see how that looks. Yeah, can you see that toward the end of that loop? It really darkens up. I guess there's not much sunshine in Craven County today, so there's not much damage in them getting a new burn. Ah. Yeah, I think the abnormally dry state of our area will be updated after this. I think you're right. So in Rocky Mount, winds are increasing quickly. Nashville definitely in it. Yep. Oh, wow. Martin Brosman says all the lights are out on, it says Millwork. I wonder if he meant Millbrook. Not sure. Oh, wow. So you had to delay your wedding because of the outbreak in 2011. The puns are awesome and dreadful. Thank you, Kat. Well, you know, up in Roxborough, every person counts. And down in Southern Pines, the more the merrier. '67 dew point in Clinton now. Shouldn't go up anymore with a line right on them. You know, just out of curiosity, oh, there's a new warning for Duplin County and Lenore up toward Kinston. I have to look down here just for fun. I guess I'm just getting the end of it right in here. Okay, well, things will get better shortly. All right. Go back to the Raleigh radar. And I guess the folks in Sanford are wondering what's going to be happening in lee of this. And this is the last one. In Goldsboro, it's definitely waning. You know, they didn't call those dad jokes when I was a kid. They were just puns. Oops. Power out since 11:45 in Pender County. So you had a gust of 50 way before the main event got to you. Well, I know the crowd has not been huge, but I appreciate very much those of you that have stuck with me here. So you can basically look at that zero velocity line, and the radar is here. And so the wind's coming up from the southeast, so these are winds coming toward the radar, and these ones are technically going away from it. It's really more of a south-southeast flow. But man, what are those values up there? Well, they ramp up in a hurry. Well, 60 plus. That's the storm relative. So to get the storm relative velocity, you just subtract out the motion of the storm itself. And then it's almost like you're traveling with the storm. I did it again. Jeez. Yeah, I definitely will, Kat. I'll do a post-mortem on this. The thing that's been nice about this, with the small crowd and not warnings flying right and left, that I've been able to, interact with you guys. And I'm fearful that in a situation where all heck's breaking loose, that it would be tougher to do that. Oh, wow. Thank you, Cameron. Spread the word. Oh, looks like Enfield is right on the leading edge now. Roanoke Rapids is in it. Well, Cameron, I'm glad I can depend on you. You can tell I'm getting tired. Oh, you're getting it in Sims now? Okay. Yeah, I actually did a measurement last night that the fire in Carolina Forest was 8.4 miles from me as the crow flies. And one of the bands that I play in down here, the librarian for the band and also a player, had flames in her backyard and she had to evacuate for a couple of days. But now she's back home. So Wilson, you haven't gotten it yet, but sitting here looking at Kenley with some interesting memories from years ago. I actually dated someone that lived in Rains Crossroads. And her brothers and I used to go to the truck stop in Kenley and play video games. That was back early mid-'80s. You got down to 4.6 Fahrenheit during that snow? Wow. I'll never forget that morning. What was it, January 21st of 85? 9 below zero, broke an all-time record by 7 degrees that had stood since 1899. And the day before, we got about 3 inches of snow on that Sunday before the cold air came in. And I showed a current temperature map at 10 a.m. that morning. And I went back and looked to make sure my memory wasn't failing me. But it was 61 at Hatteras and 1 at Asheville. And I thought to myself, I will never see that again. And I haven't. Well, at least maybe I shouldn't say this. Up until now, at least the tornado threat has not materialized. Check something here. This is a product off a radar scope, and they have a thing called azimuthal shear, and you can see how these things track, these individual cells from southwest to northeast. And we have some down here. Oh, look at all the lightning now. Man. Very interesting. Oh yeah, that's was that the one just before Christmas? Um, Raleigh didn't get a thing, but we had a few inches of snow and sleet 2 weeks before that, and the next morning, two 2,000-foot television towers collapsed, and ours was one of them. The sun came up the next morning and differentially melted ice more on one side of the tower than the other, and it couldn't handle the weight imbalance, and bang. And our CEO, Jim Goodman, being the brilliant man that he was and is, negotiated a deal with Channel 40 in Fayetteville. And I don't know how much money he had to give them. But they lent us their tower for, I think it was about 6 months until we could build a new one. But we were back on the air 4 or 5 hours after that happened, which was remarkable. Gonna have to watch this down here. The way this is curving around, there might be a little rotation going on here southwest of Goldsboro. Down in here is just convergence because this is going out, this is coming in, but when you have the green to the reds going this way, then that's rotation. .65 dew point now, just north of Goldsboro. See, this is the issue with warnings. Like for instance, this one here, everybody west of that line is in absolutely no danger anymore. And that these areas should have been knocked out of that, because I'm sure there are people still like living in Smithfield thinking, oh, we're still under a warning. Well, you shouldn't be. I remember Calypso from the '84 outbreak. I used to go down to Wrightsville Beach on Mondays, my day off, and there was no 40 back then, so I went down 70 to Goldsboro, down 117, and Calypso got hit with those tornadoes bad. Yes, things past Roanoke Rapids now, the worst of it. Add up the rainfall at RDU. Oh, actually, I need more than I need more than the most recent to do that. Let's see. Past 6 should be good enough. So that's 18Z. They reported 9/10. And the next hour, they got another 15. So that's 105. Another 100, so about a little over an inch. Peak wind, 1434, 37, 39. Pressure falling rapidly. Looks like the peak wind was 39 knots. There's another one of those little intrusions. Interesting, Cameron. I remember as a kid, up in Lancaster, PA, in the summertime, that the sky would get really, really dark, and the wind would be light, and it was almost eerie. You know, it's like, what's about to happen? Oh, the cooler water, you mean? Could very well, especially with an onshore flow like that. You know, Morehead City, the way their coast is oriented, a wind from 170 is directly onshore. And you can feel that down here. I mean, anytime the wind has any component from the ocean, I mean, there can be like a 15-degree spread between here and Conway's only about 10 miles away as the crow flies. Yeah, Magnolia, Rose Hill. Let me move this up so you can see what I'm seeing. There you go. Well, here's I wish I could see the county lines better. But basically, once the line gets passed, something like that, then I can start working on my forecast. And I hope you don't mind if it's a little abbreviated today. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday. This is just the way my mind works. The word eternal and infinity freaks me out. I just have no concept of something that never ends. And then I start to think about the fact that if there's not an end, is it possible there's no beginning? This was always here. If you've never seen Carl Sagan's video, The Pale Blue Dot, it's 3.5 minutes long. Put that on your to-do list. One of the most thought-provoking 3.5 minutes you'll ever experience. I see the dew point is 46 in Charlotte. I think Boone may actually get a little bit of snow out of this on the back side. I guess tomorrow night. Absolutely. Take care. No, I didn't. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay. Don't mind me, I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, sometimes these events can be like watching paint dry, you know. You know what, Kat? I actually had to abort. I have discovered that Mondays are busy days because I've got the daily update, the bonus weather video, and Facebook and Instagram all to do. And I think since the bonus videos are not time sensitive, that I'm going to try to knock those out in the morning. And then I won't have as much to do in the afternoon, and I'll hopefully be able to get to rehearsal on time. When I do, if I ever sell this place and do move back to Raleigh, that is the one of two things I will dearly miss about this place. The other one is Ed Piotrowski is the weather god down here. He's been at WPDE for over 30 years and has like 400,000 followers on Facebook. And his wife is my real estate agent, and they are just two of the most genuinely nice people you will ever meet. And other than Ed being a Yankees fan, I have nothing against him at all. Well, got about one county to clear. That's Edgecombe. And then I think we can stick a fork in it. Well, my Mets have finally improved to the point that I have something to cheer for. It's been a long drought. Yeah, Steve Cohen has definitely changed the landscape from the Mill Pond days, or Will Pond days. But the thing I like about Steve is he's a real fan. He's not just he doesn't just own the team. It's like he's really into the team. Okay, so we're out of Samson. We're halfway done with Wayne, maybe 3/4. Then I'm sorry.
One to Lindor. Now the pitch. Swinging a drive towards the gap in right center. It's pretty deep. It's back near the wall. It's gone. It's gone. Francisco Lindor. He may have just outdone himself. He has hit a grand slam into the Phillies bullpen in right center field. The Mets are leading by a score of 4-1. They were famished for the big hit all night, and Francisco Lindor just provided a feast. Mets 4, Phillies 1 here in the 6th inning.
Oh my. Now, see, I was actually a Phillies fan for the first 10 years of my life. And my dad was a Mets fan from their inception because he was a big Casey Stengel fan, and he was their first manager. And then Tom Seaver sort of became my boyhood hero. And that's how I switched to the Mets. And I switched at the beginning of 1969, having no clue what was going to happen that fall. I'm going to zoom in here up around Pine Tops. And I'm going to, oh, you can actually see that, okay. So the county boundaries don't exactly show up beautifully here, but think that's the edge of Edgecombe County right over in there somewhere. Maybe right here. So we're getting close. You went to your first Yankees game in 1964. That was the year of the World's Fair. And don't they still have the, what do they call it? The globe. There's a name for it. I can't remember what it is. Unisphere or something like that. Yeah, I just, Spirit flies nonstop from Myrtle Beach to Newark, and then I just take New Jersey Transit into Manhattan. Well, gee, this has been a nice little social event today. I think the county boundaries might be a little bit more visible on radar scope. Let's see here. You got to go in close enough to see them. Yeah. Yeah, so there's the Wayne, so it's for all intents and purposes, it's out of Wayne County except this corner down here. And then Edgecombe County is up in here. So let's see, it's, right now it is 2:56. I think take it till 3:15, that should do it. Oh, flood advisory. See who that's for. Edgecombe, Halifax, Nash, and Wilson. Minor flooding in low-lying areas. Yeah, I think I'll do the post-mortem tomorrow because there may be reports that keep trickling in the rest of today. But I think by tomorrow morning, it should be final. Nice thing about this NWS chat is that I can hook up to any National Weather Service office in the country. So if there's something interesting going on there, then I can monitor all their stuff and pass it along to you guys. You can see all those storm tracks with the shear. In fact, there is a way, you know how I get rid of the radar if I want to? I will just broaden the view and pick a radar so far away that it won't pick up anything in North Carolina. And then I can come back here, and now I can see the county boundaries better. So there's what I can do here, I think. There's Edgecombe, Wilson, Nash. Not a very good drawer. And now we can put the, oh, I didn't know I was going to get rid of it. I thought I was going to stay there. Oh well, nice try, Greg. Almost down to Wilson County, just a little bit left in there. Sun's out in Cary? Okay. Are they doing anything with that area that when they knock down the mall? Is there, anybody know what the future plans are there? Well, I would definitely. Oh, really? Okay. You know, there's some things that happen that are just unexplainable. Like, I'm sure a lot of you remember Daryl's. I thought that place would never go away. They had the best crackers. I think it was the one up on Glenwood Avenue that had the bus inside of it or something like that. You can sit in the bus. Oh, wow. Thank you. Do you know, I didn't even know what Patreon was until 2.5 years ago, and I was having dinner with my two sons, and my younger son, I think it was Austin, said, you know, you still have a little bit of a following, Dad. And he said, have you ever thought about Patreon? I said, what's that? And so I thought I'd give it a shot. Okay. I mean, there was a time when that was a very cool mall, I thought. It was Carrie's answer to Crabtree. Just about to get to Tarboro. You know, Barry, I really don't care for this mortality thing at all. And I tell you, the whole thing about Donna Gregory, if that isn't proof that life can turn on a dime, I don't know what is. I was wondering if there's any option. I get, because it looks like the county boundaries are the same color as the highways. Yeah, I've been looking for stuff all day and just not, I mean, obviously we've had the strong winds, but this was not nearly as busy a day as I thought it was going to be. Yeah, my problem, Barry, is that I took life so seriously the first 30 years of my life, too seriously. And I think I told somebody at my 30th birthday party that from that point forward, for every year that I aged chronologically, I was going to reduce my maturity level 1 year. So I'm now at -8. It's interesting, this little line that's formed out completely separate from this. Pine Top should be getting some good rain right now. And Greenville's about to get in on the fun. I don't, let's take a look out west and see if anything is coming. Let's see what's going on with this. Yeah, just a couple of showers. Oh, there's something up here in west of Sparta. Where is Blacksburg? There it is. Oh yeah, a little line there. In fact, oh, the menu disappeared. How does that happen? I was going to try to show the composite. Let's see if Greenville Spartanburg has anything. More than likely, that's the actual, that may be the actual front. Let's take a look at, I can't, yeah, the little 3 bars up here have disappeared. I don't know why, but that's the main menu. Scotland Neck's getting it now. That's like on the eastern edge of Halifax County. I feel a little obligated to stick with this until the line is completely out of the area, just in case. I wonder if there's a way to save this chat. Let me see here. I don't see any. This thing just doesn't want to seem to get past Tarboro. It almost looks like the way this thing is moving that it's making more progress to the northeast than the east. Oh, now that's not in our area, but that's a broad circulation. It's not tight at all, but first thing I've seen like that today. See if we can query that. Yeah, it's only Well, 57 inbound and 2 outbound. Hey, you see how this area just is not getting into Tarboro at all. It's moving more this way than it is this way. Well, it'll be interesting to see that line out on the foothills, what happens with that, because the dew points are still in the low 60s. But the wind field is not nearly as strong as it was ahead of this. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I think I'm going to close this store down. I'll watch this. If something happens at the last minute in eastern Edgecombe County, I'll come back on. But I think things for the most part in our part of the state are just about over. So I so much appreciate you guys. I know it was a small number, but it gave me a chance to do some live interaction, which was fun. I really enjoyed that. And thanks for the techie folks that helped get me through this. And that gentleman that was going to send me the note on Patreon, I'll definitely get up with him and see what we can do. So anyways, thank you very much. I appreciate the daily update will be forthcoming in a couple of hours, and the bonus video, I don't know what it's going to be on. It'll probably be pretty short, but I'll come up with something. So, all right, folks, you all take care. We'll talk to you soon. See you later.